welcome to SteamPunk. This is your host, SteamPunk Bob, and today we go back to school with Bully, Scholarship Edition. Bully is a game that was hated by overprotective moral guardians for two major reasons. One, the title is Bully, so obviously it's about going around and bullying kids. Two, it was made by Rockstar, and obviously everything by Rockstar is a brutal murder simulator with negative moral content. Bully is also the victim of my dying video card, resulting in some weird artifacts. I've tried to edit around them, but keep in mind if I missed one, there are not random holes in things in the actual game. So, Bully. You're 15, you get dumped at a crappy New England boarding school, and it's a story really of dealing with some of the pressures of growing up. From here, you have a quest to defeat all of the clique leaders. We have the bullies, the preppy kids, the greasers, the nerds, and the jocks. There's also some other kids that don't belong to any of the cliques. Presumably they just go day to day trying to keep their head down. This game, straight up, has bizarre controls. Though that may just be the port to the PC, I'm not sure. But you use left alt to run and sprint. You punch with shift. Space is used to back out of menus. At least we have the trusty WASD to move, R to grab stuff, mouse for camera, right mouse for lock on, and left mouse for weapons. So, despite some of the controls being kind of weird, they do feel natural after not long. One problem you might run into, though, depending on your particular Windows install, sticky keys. Most PCs aren't ready to have you mash on shift, and it assumes that someone with Parkinson's disease is having a hard time holding shift. Gameplay is more than superficially similar to Grand Theft Auto, especially the ones that were released around this time, like Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City. You can wander around finding goodies and getting into fights, but the cops, who in some cases are actual cops, but mostly are prefects or teachers, will attempt to drag you to the principal's office if they see you do something against the rules. At certain times, rather than people's initials showing up on your map, stars do. I say at certain times because some of the missions can't be done until the evening, for example. There's also red stars that give you new hideouts and green dollar signs that represent part-time jobs. Oh, and class, of course. Class has one gripe from me. At least for morning classes, I have no idea until the bell rings what class I need to attend. Once the orange bell icon appears, I can head there, and afternoon classes are paired with specific morning ones, which makes it slightly easier if I can remember, but couldn't even give me a slight heads up on this one, guys. As I just mentioned, classes in Bully Scholarship Edition are divided into morning and afternoon classes, one of each in a given day. There are also, for the most part, fun little minigames that thematically fit with the class and give you a usually useful power-up for completing them. For example, English class is a word jumble game, and for each level of the class you complete, you gain social bonuses, such as the ability to apologize to prefects for small crimes. Biology is a straightforward dissection minigame where you cut open your victims, identify organs, and set them aside in a methodical fashion. Not all the classes are fun little minigames, though. Math is literally a simple math test, and geography is just matching flags to countries/states/provinces. On the other hand, gym lets me lead Team Nerd to dodgeball victory, and photography is a neat free-roaming adventure where you're given a target as specific as the 4 Bulworth Academy banners around campus, or as vague as hobos and or dogs in the bad side of town. The trouble system is reasonably well implemented, though it certainly has its quirks. For example, the greasers and I don't see eye to eye at this point in the story, so one picked a fight with me. I kicked his ass, of course, and as you can see, my trouble meter filled to the level for violence. This is all well and good, until I decided to see if I could kick him while he was down. And I can. But once I've kicked his ass, the game no longer considers him a possible target for violence. So not only do I not get fresh trouble added to my meter, it actually starts draining while I kick this poor kid repeatedly in the ribs. The prefects apparently don't want you to fight anyone who can fight back, but kicking them in the torso until their vital organs are liquefied? Boys will be boys. This does bring to mind something I like a lot about the trouble system as compared to the wanted level in pretty much any crime sandbox. It's well defined what you do that causes your trouble meter to fill, and a given crime only fills the meter to a given level. Escaping from the prefects always increases that level, which makes them more vicious in their pursuit. But violence against your peers, for example, gives you the first 2/3 of the meter. Dress code violations are very tiny, not even a full unit. So low, the prefects will just yell at you, not actually try to capture you. But if you punch a little kid, adult, girl, or authority figure, you're screwed, because the trouble meter is instantly filled, and they take no prisoners for that kind of stuff. Or, more accurately, they instantly take prisoners for that kind of stuff. But it's clearly defined what crime you just did. Dress code violation, vandalism, violating curfew, trespassing, all well defined and clear. There are some great bits involving the AI's short memory, though. If you manage to grab a prefect, give him a swirly, then run off to class, after class he doesn't have an axe to grind. He just treats you like normal. Admittedly, the prefect's normal attitude towards you isn't positive. Even if you greet them nicely with a perfectly empty trouble meter, they say things like, "You make me sick," and such. There's also the detail that class takes a block of time, not a chunk of time, if that makes sense. Morning classes start at 9 a.m. and end at 11:30 a.m. Thing is, it doesn't matter when you arrive for class, as long as it's between 9 a.m. and 11:29 a.m. Arriving at 11:29 lets you get the full class and all of its bonuses, as long as you're there before 11:30 when the class goes away. The game has some nice presentation to it. There's different combat music depending on what faction is currently pissed at you. For example, the nerds have this techno-y, kind of dorky, but still really catchy theme that you'll hear while fighting their leader, Ernest, who has apparently developed the ability to fly. It's a small detail, but it's a lot of fun to me, and it can be used as a method of threat management. After all, especially early in the game, jocks are just way too tough to handle. So if they're after you, running might be your best option. Missions are relatively varied, from helping a drunk pretend to be Santa Claus, to breaking into a house to kill a super rare Venus flytrap, or even retrieving Grotto's and Gremlin's character sheets. You could refer to this game as a scaled-down Grand Theft Auto, but I don't feel that does bully justice. Yeah, you're egging buildings and giving wedgies instead of throwing grenades and hacking people apart with a chainsaw. But Jimmy Hopkins is a much nicer person than most GTA protagonists. He's a bit rough around the edges and sometimes takes things too far, but all in all, he's about keeping peace and order in the school. If the place sucks with the various cliques fighting each other for dominance, then fine. I'll show them who's boss one at a time and eventually make the place livable. With the exception of one or two plot points, the narrative flows cleanly, and even the bigger plot point of those two can be somewhat hand-waved away, given Jimmy is presumably having to do a little bit of homework and socializing that I don't directly see and control, and maybe he's getting too confident to bother to track down the obviously megalomaniacal villain. Seriously, I know this is a spoiler, but if you can't tell that Gary is a sociopath who's the actual big bad of the game, you've never played a crime sandbox before. There's a lot of side content to this game. A lot. You can be a paperboy, mow lawns, do bike and go-kart races, explore to find tons of collectibles, and For the most part, it's all fun. The only reason my last file was at 99% is that I had a habit of using my skateboard to go places, because I can just pull it straight out of my ass, unlike a bicycle. But in order to get 100%, one of the requirements is to go at least 100 kilometers on a bike. I'm on my way to finding out in this file, but maybe if you use a bike instead of a skateboard, 100 kilometers is possible without grinding. I just refuse to get on a bike and ride around town for days on end with no actual point aside from grinding up one stat. Calling it small-scale Grand Theft Auto may be selling Bully short, but it's certainly a good starting point to use, and I've had more fun with Bully than with any other Rockstar sandbox crime game. If you're at all into the sandbox crime genre, you should look into Bully Scholarship Edition. Anyway, this is SteamPunk Bob, out.
Can't we all just get along? No, can't, because you're a bastard.
Jimmy! Calm down, man!